Fix errors, waste, and issues in a couple of clicks. Get alerted whenever you're off track. Sign up at trueclicks.com.
Wix Studio, the platform for agencies and enterprises to manage clients and projects with max efficiency, sharing Wix's SEO tech to help you drive growth.
So I'm Becky Simms. I'm founder and CEO at Reflect Digital, and we are a digital marketing agency, and we combine the art of marketing with the science of behavior. And that's our superpower, and that's what we do differently to others. So I'm here to talk to you about the science of making your brand irresistible in search. So hopefully this segues nicely from the two talks we've already had, and a slightly different angle as well. So first of all, I'm just going to ask you to do some thinking. So take a moment to just think of a brand that resonates with you. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to shout it out or anything, but just have a think what comes to mind. Are there any visuals that come to mind? Are there sounds that come to mind? Are there smells? Can you smell the brand? Can you taste the brand? Are you thinking about what you're going to have for dinner? Can you feel the brand? Has it made you feel something with the brand that's come to your mind? We all have different relationships with brands, but for me, the one thing that lives on through every brand connection is the human connection. That'll be the brands that have come to your mind just then are the ones that have truly connected with you as the audience that hopefully they were trying to reach. So the superpower that I want to share with all of you today is connecting with humans through search. And that's what we're going to talk about. Now, brand strategy shows us that there's lots of things we need to consider. So for example, there's 5 components to a strong brand according to Google. So I've sourced this as variations of what everyone says on Google. I think there was some that were 21 things that you need to think about. But everything from brand identity, brand purpose, mission, values, brand messaging, brand positioning, brand experience, all of it. But on the surface, this is often what you want your brand to be. So it's often what people sit in a boardroom and talk about and decide, oh, this is what we're going to be, this is what we stand for. But we need to ensure that our brand is actually what the customer wants, because that's when we get that true brand connection. So we have to leverage human insight. Now, humans are emotionally driven. We like to think we're rational creatures and that we weigh up all our decisions, but it's not true. But so much marketing ends up stuck in the rational space and we forget about the emotional side. So it wouldn't be a marketing chat without some stats. So 76% of people will buy from a brand when they feel connected. That kind of makes sense, doesn't it? 71% of people expect a brand to understand what their needs are. And we're going to talk a lot more about that as we go through. And then 90% state that authenticity is a factor in their brand decision making. So being authentic. But what does this mean for search? Well, of course, we have to have consistency of brand. You've got to have your guidelines. You've got to be doing things right and consistently and making sure that we've got the same experience. Again, those brands that you thought of at the start, they'll be doing that really well because they've allowed you to conjure up those thoughts. But what is the real differentiator when we think about search as a channel? And in my opinion, it's the fact that we're meeting on the customer's terms. We're answering their query. They've turned to Google. And Google's our safe friend, isn't it? We can ask Google anything. Google doesn't judge us, whereas sometimes we don't want to ask people these questions. So the customer has asked us for help. And if we've been good enough to rank and we've managed to achieve the position to answer that query, then it's our job to make sure that we're helping the customer. But what we have to ask ourselves is, are we actually acting in a human-first way? Or are we just chasing sales? Because that's where we do damage to our brand. And customer experience is everything. If you've ever seen me talk before, I probably nearly always put this slide up because it's one of my favorites, because it just visually shows us the difference between design and customer experience. So some wonderful architect has spent loads of time thinking about how to design this pathway to get from one place to another. And guess what? Us humans have come and ruined it, and we've trampled our own new pathway. That's the route we wanted to take. And that's the path we need to know about with our customers. That's the path we need to care about, not the one we want to design, the one that they want to take. So we need to meet our customers where they're looking, and we need to match their intent. So we can't be that website where they've searched and they're asking for help and we just go, buy my stuff. That's not helpful. At some point, they might be ready to buy our stuff, but if they're asking us a question, we've got to help them. So we need to support them in what they're trying to do. We need to walk that path with them, the trodden one, not the one that's all beautiful that we really wanted them to take. And step by step, we need to take that journey with them. And we need to not be trying to rush for the kiss on the first date. We can't be trying to skip ahead. And you know what? Dating is a really powerful analogy when we think about how we court our user and how we work through the journey with them. Because it is about being adaptable. On those dates, you're learning how to work this person out and you're adapting yourself to the scenario. You're reading the signs, but you have to not be rushing your own agenda. Well, unless that's what they're looking for, which sometimes does happen, doesn't it? But that's why when we're on a website journey, we've got navigation, because that's where if the customer does want to skip ahead and do something in the future that maybe we didn't think they were ready for, they can use the navigation to go and find what they're looking for. But we need to be answering what they were asking for. So how do you do all of this? Well, first of all, you need to be clear on who your audience are. So you need to know how they search. You need to know how they move through your sales funnel. Now, we've all seen the traditional funnel before: awareness, consideration, they're ready to buy, and then we have this wonderful opportunity to retain them and turn them into advocates for our business. But at Reflect, we also talk about it as a human funnel. Now, this isn't a perfect example because I believe this has to be tailored to your business, but it is a good example because you need to consider the length of the sales cycle. So the example on screen here works for maybe a longer sales cycle. So I don't know, say you're selling a car. People don't tend to buy cars overnight. It's normally quite a considered purchase. So in that early stage, when they're doing the first kind of awareness searches, if your brand has the opportunity to get in front of them, the number one thing you need to do is be memorable. You need to make sure that in 3-4 months' time when they're ready to buy, you're the one that stands out. So to create memories, we need to disrupt, we need to grab attention, and we need to make people feel something. We then need to go on to build a relationship. So we need to be knowledgeable and helpful and show them that we're a trustworthy source of information. Wherever they turn, when they turn to Google or whether it's our website, we want to be appearing because that's going to help demonstrate from a brand perspective that we're a safe pair of hands and they should be considering us. And then as humans, we have this innate fear of making the wrong decision. We hate making the wrong decision. It's built into us. So we have to help them at the point that they're ready to buy, make it feel like they're making the right decision. We've got to give them good signals and support them through. And that can be really subtle things that happen on that journey. But we need to make it easy to convert. We need to reaffirm this good decision. And we need to continue to delight the customer, remembering that the sale doesn't finish when they convert on our website. The sale finishes when the product's delivered or when the service is carried out. And all of that has to be beautiful to keep the process going. And then you have to continue to do all of the above. So you've got to continue to stay in touch and continue to delight them, but at the right pace that makes sense. If you've just sold them a car, you're not going to sell them another car immediately. So you've got to think about the relationship you can build. And we have to remember it's noisy online. So our brand needs to be in the business of being memorable. And as I alluded to there, we're much more likely to remember things when we feel something. So in psychology, there's a concept known as the peak end rule. So we remember the peak of the emotion and we remember the end of it. So that could, in a bad experience, look like this, which isn't ideal. But you know, when we've all had bad experiences, we tend to talk about them, don't we? Because we remember them. But obviously, ideally, we want it to be this, that they've had an amazing experience and their peak was wonderful, and that's what they remember. So how do you understand your audience's movement through this sales funnel? Well, it starts with customer research. So first of all, you need to uncover for your audience what motivates them, their fears and concerns, what excites them, what stops them progressing, and what enables them to progress. And you need to find out who and where they go to for advice And you need to find out who they trust and so on, all of those big questions. And you also need to know what their jobs to be done are, because there's a whole theory around jobs to be done. And it's really interesting if you've not heard of it before. But for most things, we've got a tick list of stuff in our minds that we need to do that have to happen before we can make the purchase. And if you know what that is, if you can help them on that journey, again, you're putting your brand in the right light and you're helping to build that relationship. So how do you do this research? Well, these are 4 ways. There are many others, but we don't have time for all of them today. But these are some of our favorite ways. So one of them is audience surveys. So that is whether it's your current customer database or whether it's going out to through a survey provider to a new audience. But these are behaviorally written questions. Since we brought behavioral science into Reflect about 6 years ago, I did not realize how much I used to bias questions. So a good example of a biased question would be me asking you, did you enjoy Brighton SEO today? I've already planted that I want to know that you enjoyed it. Whereas I could say, how did you find Brighton SEO today? And then that's much less biased. But when you're asking surveys, you have to make sure that someone knows what they're doing is writing those questions so that we're truly understanding what the customer motivation is. Social listening is really powerful. Finding what people are just willing to already say about either your brand or your topic area, your expertise. You can learn so much from that. Desk research. So sometimes you can find that people have already done research on the audience you want to target. And that can be super powerful to just be able to pick that up and learn from that. And then client persona workshops, we do a lot of these. So this will be with customer-facing staff. I think in marketing, we often forget how important those people are that are on the front line, whether it's answering phone calls, live chats, in a showroom, wherever it may be. They are an untapped resource often for the information they can tell us about our audience. And this goes through to create our personas and our user journeys. And then this helps create our brand and digital strategy. You then support this with in-depth channel research. So considering but not limited to keywords and search trends. So for me, keyword research, it helps us find the voice of the customer. As I said earlier, Google's our trusted friend. We can ask Google anything. Audience insights and targeting. So turning to maybe our paid platforms to see what size audiences we can find and what topics they're interested in can be really useful for understanding linked interests, etc. Current performance audit, knowing how you're currently performing and what really is working and what's not. Your competitors, your partners, your retailers, whoever it may be in your world, what they're doing and matching that up with your performance. And then digital PR and social media trends and so much more. Using tools such as, these are just some of our favorites, but for me, when it comes to tools, it's about finding the tool that works for you, that gives you data in a way you can actually use it. There are more tools out there than we know what to do with, aren't there? So it's finding the ones that suit you and give you the information you need. So ideally, you then have a behavioural team to help you, which obviously we are. But don't worry, if you don't, you can get on your Superman cape. I feel like we've had a few Superman capes this afternoon, and you can make this happen. So you need to start to knit this information together. And the idea is, first of all, we want to create some motivation-led personas. So we don't want to know about demographics. Sometimes they can be helpful, but that's not the lead on the persona. So we've got a persona model that we use within the agency, which is called Monkey, Lion, Dog. Playful in name, but powerful in what it does. It's a synthesis of a number of different theories. And actually, if you want to capture this URL, just our website /MLD, you can go and take the test and find out what you are. But the idea is that we've got 3 different parts of our brain. So the monkey part of our brain is our contextual part. It's the part where we really care what other people think, how we're viewed in the world, what our status is, what our title is, etc. The lion is the rational part of our brain, so where we really want to make sure that we're weighing things up and we're making good decisions. And then the dog, well, anyone that owns a dog out there will know how much a dog loves you. And the dog is all about community. It's about friends, family, colleagues, connections to others, and making sure that they're considering that in their decision making. Now, I won't go through this because we won't have time, but this is something that, again, at the end, I'm going to give you a link to download the slides. So you can take this away with you and just have a look at some of the mappings. And there's also here some example product motives and some example service motives so that you can see if you've started to understand the concept and you've got an idea for your audience, you've got some ideas of ways that you want to craft your messaging based on this. So you then have this plethora of customer insight and you've got all of this research from your channels and retailers. So you now want to start to create your customer journey map. Now, I'm going to walk you through an example and I'm going to use myself. So when it comes to holiday buying, and I've got this on the brain because I go on holiday on Saturday, not that I'm counting down, but I put myself into the daydreaming holiday planner. I am always planning my next holiday. If you joined my Instagram feed, it's full of beautiful places, mostly that I can't afford. So I'm always looking, I'm always on, but every now and then I'm then actually ready to make decisions. So this here is an example, and as I walk through it, we'll build it, but you've got this again that you can download at the end. So this is a more simplified map. We do some of these with clients where they're much more detailed, but easier to go through in a 20-minute talk. So you start with objectives. What is the specific goal for the person? What are the touch points? Where are they going? What are the push points? What do they need from you? What are their priorities? And what are the pain points? What challenges do you need to help to solve? So thinking about myself for inspiration, I'm looking for images. I want to see things that make me think, yes, I want to be there. I love those Instagrammable pictures and locations. And I'm also a real foodie, so I want to know what the food's like. So as I've started to kind of get into my research and I'm a bit closer, maybe I know what destination I want to go to. Now I'm starting to look at what resorts are good for foodies. And I want to see the user-generated content. I don't just want to see their beautiful photos that they've had a photographer take and have been staged. I want to see what people really want to say about this location. And then once I'm ready to make my final decision, I'm starting to select my resort, but I'm down to really kind of important questions now. Have they got the room I want? Can they do the dates I want? Can I actually afford it? All of those good questions. Now, if you get any of these stages wrong, you could be damaging your brand and your relationship with the customer. Because remember, to me, brand is about connecting with the human. So obviously what we just went through there was awareness, consideration, and conversion. But when you then map that to your strategy, I've changed some of the titles here. We've then started to see really clearly what channels we should be on, what our creative should look like, and potentially what the format of our creative should be, because that's also really important. We've got so many options open to us now, and we need to make sure we're not just assuming it's always a blog post. It sometimes is a blog post, but sometimes it's other content the person needs. Brand messaging, we started to see what messages need to come out based on how I'm feeling, what I'm worried about, etc. And then measurement. Now, for me, measurement, or we sometimes, in digital marketing, we've kind of done ourselves a disservice that everyone wants to know, what's the ROI on that? How many times do you get asked that? And you're like, oh, this was a brand exercise. For me, measurement and reporting this back in the business as well should always be around what was the customer trying to do, and can we measure that? Because that will give us a leading indicator if they're likely to buy from us in the future. So if they were trying to understand more about our product or service and they did watch the whole video, we know that's a really good sign that they were engaged and that they might move to the next stage of the funnel. So the critical point here is that our audience define our journey and they inform our content, but they also tell us what our success measures need to be. So they clarify where we need to be seen and where we need to be found, and also what we need to say. They do our jobs for us. And on top of this, they also show us how the channels should play together. So to me, this is true customer and brand centricity. This is when we're really putting the customer at the heart of our strategy. And this is also, back to the title of the talk, to me, how you make your brand irresistible in search, because you just make sure you're helping the customer. Remember, we're on the customer's terms. They've asked us a question. We need to help them. So the penny drop moment is that if we're willing to listen, and that is the caveat, and if we're willing to ask the right questions, that our audience tell us where we should be, what we should say, and what we should track. They really do the job for us. So let's wrap this up. The customer journey needs to underpin how your brand portrays itself in search, not wanting to just sell stuff, because that's not going to be the answer. And remember, it's not about going for the first kiss before you've built the relationship, because that scares people off. So you must uncover your customer journey by understanding your audience and researching your channels. And this insight shows you what is important to your customer. And if it's important to your customer, then it actually has to be fundamental to your brand and search strategy. And this gives you the dials to unleash your performance. I've got a quick little ask of everyone here. So slight little side. So one of my passion projects is helping young people find out about digital careers. And I'm running this survey at the moment. It takes about 2 minutes, but it just asks you how you got into your career. And I know you're a room full of digital people, so I couldn't not ask you. And I put a cute dog with glasses on the screen. So phones out if you can and just jump on that link for me, even if you do it tonight when you're back at your hotels, etc. But it would really help because I do think there's a real digital skills gap at the moment. So I'm going to flick in a second. I'll also put this on the LinkedIn post I put out. So thank you for playing with me on that one. But then finally, you can find me on LinkedIn and you can download the slides. And thank you so much.
Demand sphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.